Peace to everybody out there. It's your brother LeVar coming back at y'all again to give another topic. And today I want to speak of the subject of the Lord and God deception. The Lord and God deception. Now, one thing I can't understand for the life of me is why people like to turn simple things into controversy. It's like, how bored are we? Do we not have kids to raise? Do we not have bills to pay? Do we not have a job to go to? Do we not have other responsibilities in our life other than making controversy out of nothing? Nothing at all. Now, here in my hand, I have the Septuagint with the Apocrypha in it, right? I got the King James Version of the Bible, right? Old and New Testament, right? No big deal. Here I have the New International Version of the Bible, the NIV, right? Out of all three of these books, is anybody out there confused on who the Elohim or creator of the world is according to those three books? Is anybody confused on, when they read these books, is anybody confused on who's referred to as God in these books? The Holy One of Israel. Is anybody confused about who the Lord is, as the translators put into the text? Now, nobody's confused about these things. Everybody knows who the Holy One of Israel is. This is not hard. It's not hidden. It's not anything obscure that you have to dig and reach and find in the Bible. But brothers want to make controversy out of nothing. And what I seek to do is go into a lot of history in this particular class and show how people twist history, even twist certain things that the preface of the NIV says. You got brothers going into Bible dictionaries, twisting Bible dictionaries, making it seem like the Bible dictionary was written by a sacred namer. These Bible dictionaries are not authored by sacred namers. You cannot use a source to prove your sacred name doctrine if the source is not coming from a sacred name perspective. But that's what these brothers want to do. Now, personally, you know, I felt like a while back that I had to tear down this doctrine in any way, shape, or form. And I said I would do that because I was caught up in the deception of it. And it is my job to clean up any filth that I see coming out here, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube or wherever. If I hear something stupid, I'm going to say something about it. The fact of the matter is this: brothers need to really come out of this retarded, ignorant stuff, because it's doing nothing for our people. Nothing at all. It's just creating more division among the people and create more confusion among the people. And I'm going to show you some things in this particular teaching that may not shock you, or it might shock you. But it's just the idea of these ignorant people's heads that's coming out, and it's like they saying these things without giving it any critical thought. Once again, we have to give things critical thought. Otherwise, we're going to make ourselves look foolish. But with all that said, you guys take your time, listen to the information, and apply it. Because, you know, it's just too much filth out here. Now, the first order of business we have to establish is, why in the world did the translators choose to put Lord and God into the text in the first place? Because the doctrine pretty much states that these translators was doing something evil, but this is just not the case. And then there's discrepancies on sacred namers on who actually did it. Okay, you know, we're going to get into these things, but I actually want to go to the Bible itself first. Let's go to Matthew 6 and 9 and listen what Messiah said. After this manner, therefore pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Notice the Messiah calls the Father, Father. He calls the Holy One of Israel, Father. He calls the God that we know in creation as Father. Why does Jesus Christ do this? Well, number one, he has reverence or respect for the one who came before him. He has reverence or respect the same way you have reverence or respect for your mother or father who came before you. That's number one. But notice he said, hallowed be thy name. A lot of people don't understand what he meant when he said that. When he said, hallowed be thy name, he meant in the sense of it being separate or holy or sanctified from anything else or any other name on this planet. You see here in the Strong's that it means to render or acknowledge or be venerable or hallowed, to separate from profane things and dedicate to God. So what you guys have to understand is, if we're going to hallow his name or keep his name set apart, this means you don't abuse it. And this is exactly what sacred namers do time and time again. Let's go to John 17:17. It says, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is the truth. That word sanctify is coming from that same word in the Greek, hagiazo. It's the same word for hallowed. So what you got to understand is, in ancient times, the Jewish thought was to sanctify his name, set it apart from every other name. Why? You guys have to ask yourself, why? Well, let me give you guys a couple examples. This is on Uttering the Sacred Name of God by Solomon Phillips, right? This is the article I ran into, and the brother got some understanding. He says, today anti-Jewish sects like the so-called Holy Names movement are cheapening the sacred name by misuse, overuse, and indiscriminate use. For this reason, among others, I believe that the ancient Jewish tradition of never honoring the sacred name needs to be reinforced and carefully observed by all who love and honor Hashem, which means the name, lest we inadvertently offend the sacred name. The sacred name should not be uttered. In this way, it is honored and kept apart as something sacred. This is exactly the Jews' thought in ancient times. Now, me personally, I'm not telling people you shouldn't say his name at all. That's not what I teach. That's not what ABT teaches. We are simply saying that we respect the tradition simply because of the good intent that the people had. Their intentions was never to hide it from anybody. Their attempt was to protect it and guard it. Just like we're supposed to do with the Most High's word when people come and misuse it and misrepresent it and misinterpret it. This is exactly why I myself actually respect this particular tradition. Just like I respect the tradition of Hanukkah. It wasn't a day that the Most High hallowed in the scriptures for them to observe, to dedicate the temple to, right? We understand that Hanukkah is a tradition. And it's a festival for rededicating the temple because of what they went through during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes and how he was afflicting the Jews, right? So we have to understand that all traditions are not bad traditions when it comes to our Hebrew forefathers. I'm simply saying this. There are a lot of brothers who misuse the name. What do I mean by that? What I'm saying is they'll tell you this is the only name and stuff like that. If you don't say this, you're taking the name in vain and all these types of things, when they have absolutely no understanding on what they're talking about. Now let's visit the translation of the Tetragrammaton written by Michael Marlowe. And I want you guys to pay close attention to what he says, because what he's saying is true. Okay? Why did the Jews avoid saying the name? Many have described this as a kind of superstitious taboo, but the custom probably sprung from a proper and solitary instinct of reverence. This is respect, you guys. Out of respect, right? And he's going to tell you why. In all times and places, people have used titles rather than names when speaking of persons in authority. This is very true. Every child knows better than to call his father by his name. That's respect, you guys. Y'all understand that. This is common sense. Another consideration is that during the exile, the Jews had to live among Gentiles who might speak disrespectfully about the Holy One of Israel.
and it would have been especially hard for the Jews to tolerate such blasphemy if the very name of God were used, right? Because a lot of you guys agree with that. All these atheists and people out here who don't respect the Most High or His name use it wrong, okay, in a blasphemous manner. I don't like it, and I know you guys don't like it. Listen to this. So it would be best if the Gentiles did not even know it. This is how they thought, right? Another problem was the opposite tendency of some to invoke the name presumptuously in magic spells, as if they could control God by uttering His name. This is exactly what used to go on in ancient times. If people believed in your God, they would try to use His name, his or her name, in magic spells. And they were trying to stop this type of stuff from going on in ancient times. That's why, see, you guys don't understand why this tradition was put forth. And I'm trying to give you a historical analogy of why. Listen to what else he says. He says, we know that this was very commonly done with the names of deities in ancient times. There was also an entirely legitimate concern to keep people from violating the commandment against taking the name of the Lord in vain, in oaths and curses. This person knows exactly what he's talking about. I got a video about taking the Most High's name in vain, and it has to do with oaths and curses. This is exactly what we teach. Okay? Because if you make a promise to the Most High and you don't fulfill that promise in the oath, that means you have taken His name in vain. Brothers don't understand that. They have their own rash interpretation of the scripture. This brother got understanding. Then he says, the prohibition of speaking the name would have served all these good purposes. And that's exactly what I believe. Okay? We don't want the name of the Most High trodden down in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, we don't abuse it. This is exactly what ABT learns and understands from history, from historical context, not from this new age sacred name crap that they're giving you. Yes, you're supposed to praise the name of the Most High, but we know there are people out there who don't honor the Most High the way you and I might. Let's move on. Now, again, you guys have to understand that you're going to run into people who follow the sacred name movement, and they try to use any piece of material they can and twist it to promote their doctrine. Let's look at the preface of the NIV. Okay, it says, in regard to the divine name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, commonly referred to as the Tetragrammaton, the translators adopted the device used in most English versions of rendering that name as Lord in capital letters to distinguish it from Adonai. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to explain the doctrine to you. The doctrine is, when they see that word device, when it says the translators adopted the device, they want you to believe that word device means trick. When you define the word device, that's one of the definitions of device. That's just one. Okay? It also means a plan. The problem with these brothers when they try to interpret things and misrepresent things is they don't critically think about what they're saying. Now, the translators did adopt a particular device. This device simply means a method or a plan. What was the method or the plan? The method or the plan was to follow the same Hebrew tradition that the forefathers laid out in times of old, when they took the word and translated the Tetragrammaton into Lord. It was a reason why they did that, and I've just shown you guys why they did that. To guard, protect, and sanctify the Most High's name. Not because they were trying to trick anybody, okay, into serving a pagan god. That's stupid. All you have to do is look at the history, and then when you read these prefaces to these Bibles, you will understand what's being said. Instead of making an idiot out of yourself and saying, oh, the translators are trying to trick you. Well, you know what? Let's go to the NIV Bible, because it seems to me that if the translators, okay, or whoever authored the preface of the NIV and all the translators and all these people got together and say, okay, we are going to unfold this trick, okay? We're going to put what's supposed to be there in our Bible. Okay? Let's see if the sacred namer's interpretation of this preface makes any sense. Let's go to the passage of scripture where Moses spoke to the Most High right after receiving the sacred name, right? Exodus 4:10. Moses said to the Lord, hold on, that's all caps. How come the tetragrammaton doesn't appear? How come the sacred name does not appear? You got to ask yourself this. If the translators of the NIV were supposed to unfold this trick and show everybody the truth, how come they put Lord in all caps right here? This is right after he received the sacred name. Pardon your servant, Lord. That's Adonai right there. You have to critically think about what you're saying when you teach people. If the translators of the NIV and the authors and all these people and the translators and all these people got together in the preface and say, we're going to foil this plan, how come they put the same thing that the KJV say? Why? You have to ask yourself that. Y'all, there is no conspiracy to hide the Most High's name. Y'all need to quit listening to people telling you. There's nothing wrong with Lord and God. We're going to get to that, though. In fact, let's go to the Holman's Bible Dictionary under the heading Lord. It says here, about 300 BC, Adonai became more frequently used than Yahweh. Thus, the books of Esther, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon do not use the name Yahweh. The title Lord, which means Adonai, or Adonai means Lord, was no longer an adjective modifying the divine name, but was a substitute for the divine name. Let me stop right there. No longer an adjective. They did this for all the reasons why I told you guys earlier, to try to protect it, to try to sanctify it, not to substitute it in a derogatory way, to hide it or anything like that. No, that's not what was going on in history. These people were using the name of the Most High in an evil way. They were blaspheming, trying to use it to use spells on people. Okay? Any of y'all will agree that that is wrong. They were trying to protect and guard his name. Right? It says here, Origen reported that when Jews read the divine name Yahweh, they would pronounce it Adonai, while non-Jews would pronounce it Kyrios, because at that particular time, the Greek language was widespread across the globe. So, that's the history. This is long before Christ came on the scene. And when Christ came on the scene, he adopted that same tradition. That's why you do not find him using a sacred name in the New Testament. He uses Father. Now, let me go to the Smith's Bible Dictionary under the word God. But before I do that, I know a lot of people won't agree with me when I say the Messiah didn't use a sacred name. Well, I can't find him using it in Scripture. And it's because there was a prohibition on the name, and at that particular time, you could get killed if you use a sacred name. Just to let y'all know that. We can read that in history for you. That's, But Smith's Bible Dictionary under the word God. At a time too early to be traced, the Jews abstained from pronouncing the name for fear of its irreverent use. You guys know what irreverent means? It means having or showing lack of respect for someone or something that is usually treated with respect. Okay? That's what it means. So when it talks about the fear of its irreverent use, the Jews had undeniably a lot of respect for the name of the Most High, and they did not want anybody using it in a disrespectful manner. I've already showed you guys that. This is what this is saying. In reading the scriptures, they substituted for it the word Adonai, Lord, from the translation of which by Kyrios and the LXX, which is the Septuagint, followed by the Vulgate, written by the Latins, which uses Dominus. That is the Latin form of the word Lord. It says, we have the Lord of our version. The substitution of the word Lord is most unhappy, for it in no way represents the meaning of the sacred name. Sacred namers will use this right here about it being most unhappy as a means to tell you that, this is just a terrible thing, or this is just a sorrowful thing that the translators chose to do this. Again, look at the history, okay? Because I don't run from none of these stupid arguments that they have. Just look at the history and look at why they did this. The person who wrote this is saying this is most unhappy simply because it doesn't represent the meaning of the sacred name. Yod Hey Wah Hey. Fine. If that's what he believes, fine. But the whole point of the matter is they were justified in why they did this. If you ask me, they were justified. You cannot read anywhere in the scriptures where the Most High says that if you want to use other titles for him, that it's a sin to do so. I really can't stand the mindset of a lot of sacred namers, because what they do is they go on shows and upload YouTube videos and stuff like that and will tell you straight up, I hate referencing the Greek language when they use the New Testament and they want to look up words in the Strongs. Well, let's go to the life of Moses in the book of Philo. The book on the life of Moses, part 2, we're going to go to verse 25. Let's see what this says, because a lot of sacred namers really don't understand how retarded they sound when they say stuff like that. Verse 25, and it says, and that beauty and dignity of the legislation of Moses is honored, not among the Jews only, but also by all other nations. Is plain both from what has been already said and for what I am about to state. Verse 26, in olden time the laws were written in the Chaldean language, and for a long time they remained in the same condition as at first, not changing their languages as long as their beauty had not made them known to other nations. So what I have to say to a lot of these sacred namers who are prejudiced upon the use of other languages and the laws and the Most High's name being ascribed in those languages, I simply say, if you don't get your act together, you're going to have to give an account for your ignorance. People don't even realize they're going directly against the scriptures when they say little retarded stuff like that. I don't like referencing the Greek. Well, the Bible tells you that all languages, kindreds, and tongues will be in the kingdom. So you got to just deal with that. But anyway, there's another argument I've heard out there, and it's crazy. A lot of these guys just insult our intelligence. And the doctrine goes a little bit of something like this. It basically states that the Khazarian Jews are responsible for the translation issues in the Bible. You see, what's so ridiculous is they jump from one extreme to the next. First, it was the evil translators. Then I heard it was the Masoretes who wrote the Masoretic text. Now it's supposedly supposed to be the Khazarian Jews. And, they try to hark on that. See, these fake Jews did this evil thing. And I've already read to you guys out of the Bible dictionary that it said that this happened way back in 300 BC. Let's read an excerpt from The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler, because you got the date. I just told you it was 300 BC. Now, anybody that's going to tell you that this is something done by a Khazarian Jew is either misinformed or just plain retarded. Listen what it says. It says, in this city, Khazaran Atil are Muslims, Christians, Jews, and pagans. The Jews are the king, his attendants, and the Khazars of his kind. The king of the Khazars had already become a Jew in the caliphate of Harun al-Rashid, i.e. between AD 786 and 809. You guys, this is all the way in the 8th century. This is 800 years after Christ. How can anybody jump up and say the Khazarian quote unquote fake Jews are responsible for these translations of Lord and God in the text, written in, let me guess, the Mishnah and Talmud. Yeah, that's the argument. That is absolutely ridiculous. This stuff had been done long before Jesus Christ even hit the scene. These guys are reaching now. You know, they don't have a leg to stand on, and they're trying to play on, you know, people being fake Jews because, you know, there's a Hebrew Israelite community who believe that they are the true Jews and all that. These guys are very deceitful, and these guys do not have anybody's salvation in mind. In closing, I'd like to say that I respect a lot of Jewish tradition and the things that they put forth. And I like to say there is no conspiracy to cover up his name. There's no Lord or God deception going on. There's no conspiracy. And the brothers that's telling you that have absolutely no clue on what they're talking about in regards to the history of our forefathers. Shalom.